My name is George Mason IV, and just so you know, I'm good at everything I do. What is it I do, you ask? Well, I do a lot of business. It includes agriculture and, oddly enough, politics. I didn't really want to get into politics, but I have a lot of opinions and I have a lot of pulls, so I decided it would probably be a good thing for me to use my influence to advocate for human rights, because I believe that there are just some things that we should be able to do and have nobody telling us whether or not we can do them. Especially not some royal person on a crown on the other side of the ocean. So, I also believe that we should be able to talk about our likes and dislikes and our rights and wrongs in a diplomatic fashion so that we can fix things. Let's see. And when I was a young boy, my dad actually was killed in a boating accident and a drowning, doing some work for our family. And I love to write, by the way. I write out a lot. But then my Uncle John Mercer took over and helped my mom to raise me and my siblings. On to our next slide. This is a PowerPoint. Look at this newfangled stuff. I'm not used to this. See, this isn't. It's kind of weird. It's like went on a time machine or something, right? Anyway, so I was born November 11th, 1725. We don't talk about the other end because obviously I am George Mason. Oh, look, there's a picture of me. I have to say, the camera does well for me. I am a plantation owner. I own lots and lots of land. I don't just plant one thing. I like to rent out my land so that I have lots of different things going all at once. Don't put all my eggs in one basket, so to speak. I'm also a politician. Like I said, decided that I needed to help the American people out because it matters to me. And I wouldn't call myself a writer. I really wouldn't. But other people might, because I did write a lot, and I do write a lot. I like to write. I like to express my ideas for rights, human rights, basic human rights. I did a lot of that in my lifetime. Oh, look here, early life and agricultural aspect. In my early life, I started my education in about 1736, and most of us were homeschooled back in the old days. My teacher was Mr. Williams, and up until I graduated to Dr. Bridges as my tutor, and I tutored with him until about 1750, almost 1746. And along the way, I had access to my Uncle John's great library. He had the biggest library, probably like 1,500 books. So many books. It was insane. So I got to hear about all of his friends' ideas, and all these things were written in these books from the age of the Enlightenment in Europe, which, we are following closely behind. And so soon we'll have freedom. Yay. And so I grew up, or it got my adulthood about 1946, or 1746 is when I became a man. Well, I'm sure I thought I was a man before then. But moving on. So my political influence. When you own a lot of land, it means people listen to what you say. You have a lot of money. They, I guess, want you to do them favors for them. So, you do them favors, and then they listen to what you have to say, and they believe you, and they like what you have to say. It's good stuff. Works well. So, but then I started writing papers. And my first paper was extracts from the Virginia charters and some remarks upon them. About 1773 is when I wrote this paper. And this paper was actually about the Boston. Oh, no, this was about my Ohio company. The Crown tried to revoke my land rights. And I decided that I didn't really like that very much. So I wanted to tell them that it wasn't right, so that they could tell me whether or not I could have land way over here. So, and this is a really big deal. This is the beginning of all my influence, and my political influence. And then we move on to my Fairfax Resolves. I wrote about the Boston Port Act. People thought it was unconstitutional, and so I wrote a paper that agreed. Oh, goodness. We're moving on. And finally, most importantly, I wrote the Declaration of Virginia's Declaration of Rights. And this is a paper saying that we all have innate rights, that we can do certain things, and the Crown shouldn't be able to tell us once again. So my life's greatest achievements. Yes, I attended the Mount Vernon meeting, which was actually a prelude to the convention in Philadelphia. I was also one of 5 delegates that spoke the most at the convention. A lot of papers bear my stamp, and but I decided I didn't want to sign it, which means I'm an anti-federalist. I didn't really like what they had to say. I thought that the federal government had too much power, and we needed a Bill of Rights, which we didn't have at the time. And so I decided I'm not signing it. And this earlier work of my Virginia Declaration of Rights. See that right there? Yeah. This had a lot to do with all the Bill of Rights from henceforth. I mean, people really agreed with what I had to say. And, I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, I want to be able to do whatever I want to do, don't you? And so, I just have to say, I think I am America's unsung hero. I mean, not that many people know that what I did have had that much to do with all of this. And so, here's just a little timeline right here. I was born in 1725. This is just all the stuff that I did. Thought it would be cool. Unsung hero. And so, that is my presentation of me. Look at there. And all this. Things to do. Things I've done. And things to do.